you all again for joining the CivicSpark Fellow Recruitment webinar. This is the second webinar we're doing this summer, leading up to the start of our program in the fall. Just a couple of logistics. If at any point you happen to lose connection or you can't hear me or see the slides, please just chat into the question bar on the side and I'll see that and hopefully be able to fix it for you pretty quickly. And additionally, we'll have a time for Q&A at the end of the webinar today. But if anything pops up and you have some questions as we're going, you can feel free to type those into the question bar as we go, and I'll be keeping track of those throughout the webinar. We'll be joined by Ariadna Hernandez in a little bit, and she was a former fellow last year with the CivicSpark program based out of the Sacramento region, and she's currently the program coordinator for CivicSpark. So we'll be joined by Ariadna in a little bit, and you'll be able to ask some questions to a former CivicSpark fellow as well. So again, my name is Kristen Race, and I'm the CivicSpark project manager here at the Local Government Commission. If you are selected to be a fellow, you'll be spending a lot of time getting to know me over the next year. I do all of the training, recruitment, and hiring of fellows throughout the year, so get to work with fellows in all of our regions throughout the state. To get started, give you a little bit of an overview of the agenda today. We'll give you an overview of CivicSpark, talk about how you can make an impact addressing climate change with the CivicSpark program. We'll talk about the structure and the program goals, and also a little bit about what it means to be a CivicSpark fellow. Next, we'll give a bit of an introduction to the CivicSpark Water Action Fellowship, which you've seen our website is new for the 2016-17 service year, and we're really excited about that. And then we'll talk about the fellow recruitment process and some next steps. And then there'll be plenty of time at the end of the webinar for you to ask any questions that you have about the program. So what is CivicSpark? CivicSpark's a Governor's Initiative AmeriCorps program that's dedicated to building capacity for local governments to address climate change. So what is a AmeriCorps? AmeriCorps is a service program that's dedicated to improving local communities and addressing their greatest needs. It was founded back in the 90s. This is going to be AmeriCorps' 22nd year. And annually, over 80,000 AmeriCorps members serve around the nation. What does it mean to be a Governor's Initiative program? Well, each governor around the country is allowed to pick one program a year that they feel really aligns well with the goals that they have and their administration has. So Governor Brown, 2 years ago when the CivicSpark program started, selected CivicSpark as his Governor's Initiative because he felt that the program really aligned well with the many climate goals that him and his administration hoped to accomplish, and really saw CivicSpark as a path to helping not only the state meet its climate goals, but also helping many of our local communities achieve the climate goals that they have. CivicSpark is managed by the Local Government Commission in partnership with the Governor's Office of Planning and Research. The Local Government Commission is a nonprofit based out of Sacramento. We've been around for over 30 years, originally started as a government agency under Governor Brown's first administration, but we've been serving as a nonprofit for quite a while now. And the Governor's Office of Planning and Research is our key partner. That really is, the Governor's Office of Planning and Research is our link to the Governor himself, and we really get a lot of resources from the state. The Governor's Office of Planning and Research, OPR folks, do a lot of trainings for the CivicSpark Fellows throughout the year and provides a really great opportunity for you to not only get to know the different local government staff that you're working with, but also folks in the state as well. And CivicSpark is an opportunity for fellows to really make a direct impact on climate change while gaining valuable professional experience, which we'll talk a little bit more about in a bit. The structure of CivicSpark is that we have 48 fellows in our climate program and 20 fellows in our water program, which we'll talk a little bit more about. And fellows are placed in climate readiness teams in 8 regions around the state. We have folks in LA and the broader Southern California region, Central Coast throughout the Central Valley, Sacramento, San Luis Obispo, the Bay Area, Sierra Nevada region, and all the way up to Eureka. And each one of these regional teams has a regional coordinator who is a staff member of the Local Government Commission or one of our partners that has a lot of experience, not only in mentoring folks, but also has experience in the climate field as well. And they're there to be your main point of contact in the region and also provide a lot of guidance, professional development training, and help you troubleshoot any of your project needs throughout the year. We have aim for 96 local governments benefiting from our service throughout the year, so it's about 2 per fellow. But this year we have over 100 local government agencies that are receiving support from CivicSpark fellows, so pretty massive support around the state just from CivicSpark fellows. And then we're partnered with California Volunteers, which is the state agency that administers all AmeriCorps programs, and the Corporation for National and Community Service, CNCS, which is the federal agency that administers AmeriCorps programs. So moving now to what it means to be a CivicSpark Fellow. As I mentioned, you have a regional team with a regional coordinator and your local government contact. But then you also have a lot of training and additional support from the state staff, such as myself. For example, your service year is going to kick off with an orientation. It's a week-long. You'll see on the slide there's a picture of the 2015-16 fellows at their orientation in Santa Cruz, having a lot of fun. In addition to these week-long orientation training, you're going to have a mid-year gathering, a mid-year training, which is a little bit short of a week. And then every single month, you're going to have a state training and a regional training. The state trainings are content-based, so they're going to be based around some different aspect of the environmental sector that you're going to be working on or touching on throughout the service year. And then you have your regional training, which is done by your regional coordinator. And these trainings are based on professional development and helping you get to any of the goals that you have and really helping you to see professional growth and set you up to move on and get a good career in the environmental field after your fellowship year. And fellows, how you're placed. You're either placed individually or with a team of fellows directly in a local government agency. So many of our fellows are embedded, and that's to say working directly with local government staff in a local government office. And we do have a couple of areas throughout the state where fellows are placed in a regional office with a couple of other members working more remotely. But the nature of your placement will depend on where you're matched with during the recruitment process. Excuse me. So your fellows spend 1,700 hours over 11 months on CivicSpark work. And then you really, in this work, this is not an internship by any means. It's not really even a very entry-level job. The work that you're doing is project management. You are really gaining experience in the climate change field, making incredibly important contacts, networking, and really, I see this as building your professional toolbox. You're going to leave this year with a lot of the skills necessary to move on and really take a leadership position in the climate field. So very exciting opportunity to gain a lot of experience and take on work that's well beyond entry level. Excuse me, I'm just going to take a quick sip of water here. So the goals of the CivicSpark program we've touched on a little bit, but it's split between 3 main areas. So 1, your service project, 2, volunteer recruitment and support, and 3, professional development. So these 3 areas are the 3 main places where you're going to be spending your time throughout the service year. Your service project is the biggest chunk of that time. This is what you're going to be doing. You're conducting your specific research, planning, or implementation project to really make this direct impact in the community. And this starts with a gap assessment, which is the beginning of the year. You go in and really think about what are the biggest gaps in this community. You'll interview staff members, you'll review documents, and see what the biggest climate needs are. From there, you'll develop the project scope and then move into actually implementing your project. Once your project is underway, you're going to work on engaging volunteers, and then at the end of the year, transitioning and preparing the next fellow or the next staff members to come in and take this project on. The volunteer recruitment and support piece is really, really important because the CivicSpark term is only 11 months. So during your term of service, you're going to have 150 hours dedicated to recruiting and supporting volunteers. really the only way you're going to build long-term support is if you get the community involved as well. So you're really improving volunteer services for the local governments that you're working with, and creating opportunities for volunteers to really get engaged with these important climate issues and really helping them carry on this work even after you leave. And then the last part of the year, or the last part of your workload, will be professional development. As I mentioned, this will be spread throughout the whole 11 months, and you have 20% of your time dedicated to just building your professional skills throughout the year. As I mentioned, you'll have orientation, a mid-year gathering, and then these monthly trainings as well. And this will all be shaped around the professional development goals that you set for yourself at the beginning of the service year. You'll work with your regional coordinator, and really they will help you build a strong professional network so that you're well set up to move on to a climate job after the service year is over. So as I mentioned, there's going to be a new program starting in this fall called the CivicSpark Water Action Fellowship. So in addition to our 48 climate fellows who are working directly on climate adaptation and mitigation projects throughout the year, we're going to have 20 additional fellows, bringing our total cohort to 68, who are focused on water-specific issues in California. These fellows will be based in 10 teams of 2 around the state, and they'll be embedded directly in local water agencies around the state. And they'll be focused on land use and water resource management, be working on implementing the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act, SGMA, and the California Water Action Plan, Clean Water Act, etc. And some of the main issues that these Water Action Fellows will be touching on are land use planning, groundwater management, flood mitigation, supply and demand challenges, and watershed health. So if you've seen our website and seen our application, there's just a box to check on the application if you're interested in being considered for the Water Action Fellowship. I strongly consider you to fill out that application and put yourself in the pool for this, particularly if you have any coursework or previous experience in water. We're really looking for folks who are really excited about the really complex water issues that are going on around the state, and this is a really great opportunity to get a really comprehensive experience in the water field. So again, if you have any experience or background in the water field, I definitely encourage you to take a look at the CivicSpark Water Action Fellowship. So the fellow recruitment process, as you know, the application is open and applications have been coming in really quickly. Our priority deadline is July 15th, so you have a little bit of time, but we really encourage you, if you are very interested in the CivicSpark program, to get that application in well ahead of that July 15th deadline so that you can be considered immediately for a position. The interview process includes an initial phone interview, a second interview, which will be either in person or via Skype if you are chosen to move on in the process. And then from there, if you're routed to a particular region and found to be a really good fit for the program, you'll be referred to a particular region and project partner. And from there, we'll be doing local interviews with the project partners who you'd be working with throughout the year. And those would be ideally in person if you're local, but if not, they'll be by Skype or phone. Then, if you are selected to be a fellow for the 2016-17 service year, the orientation week will begin October 3rd. You'll have a week-long orientation, as I mentioned, really get to know the cohort, get to know your regional team, the staff members, and then the projects will begin in early October. A couple of questions that we've gotten about the recruitment process. One, can you apply if you're from out of state? Definitely you can. We do like to, whenever possible, place someone in the community that they're from because they will know the regional issues a little bit more. But this year, a quarter of our class is from out of state. So some folks had never even been to California before the service year started. So this program is really open to anybody who, we'll talk about qualifications later, but if you meet the qualifications, doesn't matter where you are, you can definitely apply to the CivicSpark program. Another question that just came through is when are the fellows chosen? So we won't be starting the application or the interview process till after that priority deadline. So it takes a little bit of time to go through the many different interviews that you'll be going through. So the goal is that we'll have all of the fellows selected by the second week of September, so that you have 2 weeks to prepare yourself and get ready for orientation. But we'll be hiring in middle of August through September is when more of our offers and official acceptances will go out. And again, please continue to type questions in the question bar on the side. Really great questions coming in. So the steps of the application process, you'll need to upload a resume. Make sure on that resume, keep it to 1 page, and make sure to focus your experiences on the things that are relevant to the CivicSpark work that you would be doing as a fellow. There's another space in the application to fill in your education information. Again, you do need to have a bachelor's degree in order to be considered for the program, so just keep that in mind. You'll be required to put in the information of 2 references. You don't need to worry about going and contacting those references to send us a letter. If you are selected to move on in the process, we'll reach out to all of your references for you, so no need to send a letter in from your references ahead of time. There will be another spot on the application to fill in your skills and interests, as well as your regional preference. There will have roughly the same regions as this past year that I mentioned before. And feel free to list as many regions as you'd like. The more regions that you list, the more likely you are to be considered for all the different regions and the projects there, but don't list regions that you're not willing to move to. I think it's really good to consider where you have networks and where you'd actually be excited to live and be a part of a community for a whole year. And then there are 4 essay questions for the CivicSpark Climate Action Fellowship, and then an additional 2 questions for the Water Action Fellowship if you're interested in applying for that as well. So again, just to clarify, all fellows will be considered for the CivicSpark Climate Fellowship, and then you just have to check that extra box if you're interested in applying for the Water Action Fellowship as well. So the qualifications, as I mentioned, you need to have a 4-year degree, a bachelor's degree, ideally in some environmentally related fields, such as climate, water, sustainability studies, although in a related field is not required. You need to pass a Department of Justice, state, and a sex offender background check prior to service. This is an AmeriCorps requirement for anybody interested in applying for any AmeriCorps position. You need to commit to the full term of service, which is 11 months. So just a reminder that this service year will go from the beginning of October to roughly the first week of September 2017. So if you know that you're going to grad school or can't finish that whole term of service, unfortunately you cannot be a CivicSpark Fellow. You need to be a citizen, national, or lawful permanent resident alien of the United States, another AmeriCorps requirement. This isn't your typical AmeriCorps position where you're going to be out in the field and planting trees or doing river cleanups. So you need to be able to work in a professional office environment for 11 months and be comfortable doing that. You will be doing some volunteer engagement and service days with your team, but about 90% of your time is working in an office. So you need to be able to be excited about that and commit to that. And you also need to have strong communication skills as well as teamwork skills. Part of being an AmeriCorps Fellow is giving presentations, doing memos, writing papers, blog posts, etc. So you need to be comfortable doing that work as well. And teamwork. You're going to be in a team of roughly 3 to 7 other CivicSpark Fellows, and you'll be working on service days with them, some volunteer engagement projects with them. So you need to be able to really be a team player and work in that type of environment. That's really what local government work is about. So some strongly preferred qualifications or additional attributes. A degree in an environmentally related field, as I mentioned. It would be excellent if you have 1 year of relevant experience in the climate field. We really want to see past service commitments. So other volunteering, community service activities. If you're a previous AmeriCorps member, be sure to call that out. This is a year of service. This is not a high-paying job. You're going to be making a small stipend. So we really want to see that you have a commitment to service and really see that you're excited about doing volunteer work for a year. And then it would be really excellent if you have experience or training in outreach, facilitation, and other grassroots organizing. A lot of the volunteer engagement work that you're going to be doing is going out in the community, recruiting folks to come out and help you, advertising different projects that you're doing at the local level. So any experience that you can call out in your essays or your resume that relate to facilitation or outreach would be really great as well. So the benefits of the program, every fellow will get a $14,000 living allowance, which will be spread out evenly over 11 months. Again, it's not considered a salary, it's a volunteer position, so it's a living allowance. There will be an education award that you'll get at the end of your service term, which will be $5,775 if you complete the whole service term. And this can be used to either pay off existing student loans or continue your education. So that's a really great benefit of the program that we can talk more about, but there are some universities, for example, that'll double the Siegel Education Award if you do apply to their programs after the fact. And we do a lot of work on our end about securing jobs afterwards and connecting you to different resources in grad school, et cetera. So the Siegel Education Award is a great benefit of the program. During your term of service, you can get forbearance on existing qualified student loans, and you can also have your interest repaid at the end of your service year, so any interest that your loans accrued during the service year. You'll get health insurance and child care assistance if necessary. And then an additional benefit is just, as I mentioned before, that great network that you're going to be getting with regional and statewide contacts in the climate protection field. So we really want everyone to ask, is CivicSpark right for me? We want to make sure that if you're joining this program, you are a good fit and really are going to be able to see it out through the whole 11 months. So what CivicSpark is it's a great opportunity to build skill sets relevant to careers in the climate change field. And again, it's an entry point into the field. You're going to be getting experience that's well beyond entry level. So you're putting yourself, as I have said a couple of times, in a really great position to stay in the field and move on to a new, really great climate job at the end of your term of service. You will also get to build strong professional networks, gain practical skill sets, and also make a lasting impact in your local community. The work that CivicSpark Fellows have done over the past 2 service years is really great, and we're seeing long-term impacts for a decade or more. So that's a great mark to have on your community and something that you'll get to work on throughout your term of service. What CivicSpark is not, as I mentioned before, is a typical high service AmeriCorps program. You're not going to be, as I said, outdoors a lot. You're not going to be doing river cleanups or other very hands-on work that a lot of people think of when they think of an AmeriCorps program. So you need to be comfortable spending up to 40 hours a week in an office environment. But also, at the same time, you need to be excited about engaging volunteers and doing that more hands-on work as well. So a new development is we created a CivicSpark Facebook page where we've been posting a lot of updates about the program, the application process. You can see profiles and some of our current fellows. So definitely, if you are interested in the program, I encourage you to like us on Facebook. And it's a great way to keep in touch and learn a lot about the program before the service year starts. And before we move on to questions, we have Ariadna Hernandez here, who I mentioned before, who's a fellow last year. So I'm going to ask her to talk a little bit about her experience as a fellow and some of the work that she worked on with Sacramento last year.
Hi everyone, I'm Ariadna. As Kristen mentioned before, I was a CivicSpark fellow last year working here in Sacramento. And I had 2 projects. One of them was with the Air District, working on helping them with the neighborhoods project, so trying to increase urban forestry and more urban trees in disadvantaged communities. And a second project with Yolo County and working with their climate action plan. So it was a really great experience. I got to work with another fellow, so we were both working on the two projects. And so it really helped us learn more about local governments and more about sustainability and meeting with a lot of different people, going to networking events, and being able to work with everyone here at LGC, who they also have a lot of contacts and can really help you professionally and just get a lot of experience. So it was a really great opportunity for me, and I stayed here at LGC afterwards, so it was a really great opportunity. And I think this is a really great program. I learned a lot, made a lot of connections. So if you have any specific questions about the experience of being a fellow, feel free to ask away.
Great. So again, encourage everyone to please type in any questions that they have about the program or the fellow experience for Ariadna into the chat bar. So we got one question that just came through. What is the average age or work experience of previous applicants? It is very varied. We have folks who are just coming out of college, and this is really one of their first real work experiences. But we also have folks who this is a second career, and they're either late going back to school or just got a master's in a new field. So I would say about half of our class is within 2 years of graduating, and the other half of the class is anywhere from 2 to 20 years out of graduation. So a wide range, and I think really anyone could be a good fit if you're interested in the program. Another question that came through is who are the fellows in San Francisco? On our website, you can actually find profiles of all of our fellows by region. So if you're interested in learning more about the experience of the fellows in the region, the types of projects that exist in each region, I encourage you to take a look at our website, and we have a lot of information regionally there. Another question that just came through is where's the Sierra Nevada office location? The Sierra Nevada Fellows are based out of Truckee, so North Lake Tahoe. How can the program prepare for a graduate program in environmental science? So I think in addition to all of the experience that you're going to get in a variety of different climate fields, as I mentioned, the state seminars that we have are based on all the different sectors of the environmental field. We'll learn about transportation, public health, energy, water, policy. So you're going to get a good overview of all the different possibilities out there. And additionally, we do all those professional development trainings that we've talked about. And we did sessions this year on applying to grad schools. We have the regional coordinators who have done one-on-one check-ins with fellows interested in applying to grad school. So there's a lot of support that we can give on our end, and a lot of our fellows do go on to grad school after the fact. So we provide a lot of support, a lot of training, a lot of resources. So if you are interested in going to grad school after the program, I think you've got a lot of great resources here to help out. Is it possible to see what the specific projects for different regions are before applying? So,
not yet, right?
Yeah, not quite yet. We're working on finalizing all of the projects for all the different regions, but we're getting very close. So in the next couple of weeks, we're going to be putting up all of the projects for the 2016-17 service year as they're finalized on the website. So these should be up before interview starts. You'll be able to see what the specific projects are. So if you're applying now, I encourage you to just think about where you'd be interested in living. And then during the interview process, once the projects are up, we can have more of a conversation about which of those projects interest you most and where you'd really like to be placed. So again, keep checking up with the website and like us on Facebook so that we can so that you can get updated as soon as those projects are ready to go.
And as Kristen mentioned, there's the projects from last year and the year before, which you can go in and look at those. They're on our website. And so if you're interested, a lot of the projects are fairly similar from year to year in the area. They do change somewhat, but it'll at least give you an idea of what to look for in the regions you're thinking about applying to.
Great. And here's another question that I'll pass to Ariadna. How much interaction will fellows have with other fellows from other offices?
Well, for my year, it was a little different. We had quite a bit of an interaction my year, a bit more this year. This year, it's been a lot more cohort oriented and a lot more get-togethers. But the year I was a fellow, we got together a lot with the other groups, like in the Bay Area and the Sierra Nevada, which were kind of near Sacramento. And so we went to several conferences together. We did a camping trip that was really fun, really got everyone together. And it was mostly the camping trip we did was for the northern groups for CivicSpark, and I think the southern groups did their own camping trip. So it was pretty good amount of interaction, talking with different groups. Like I said, this year it's a bit more, we're trying to get fellows to interact a lot more, to make more of that like camaraderie feel to it, so that everyone can meet and exchange ideas and make connections and just get to feel like you're actually part of something bigger, not just you in your office. So I think it'll be a really great experience for everyone for this year.
Yeah, and we have the orientation. You're going to meet hopefully all 68 fellows at orientation, which is a huge group. And then our fellows throughout the year, in addition to your regional trainings where everyone will get together, we send out a lot of volunteer opportunities at conferences and other events. And we have fellows from around the state. We had a forum last week that fellows from Southern California, LA, the Central Coast, Sierra Nevada, and the Central Valley all went to. So they got to see fellows from really all over the state at an event. So lots of opportunities there. Wow, great questions coming through. So we'll try to be quick with answering them. Is there only one office for the fellows in each region or multiple offices? So depends on the region. In the Sierra Nevada, for example, all the fellows are based out of Truckee. I got another question that had come through, where in the Central Valley are folks placed. Most folks next year are going to be based out of Fresno. But in the Bay Area, for example, there are the 14 fellows working in 14 different jurisdictions. So really spread out throughout the state, all of the fellows are placed in individual agencies in different cities, ranging from Foster City all the way up to Napa. Southern California and LA, also there are multiple project sites. So again, if you check out the website, you'll see where all the projects are, and we'll have the host agency listed there as well. Are projects predetermined before fellows begin, or are they determined during the gap assessment? So the projects are determined ahead of time. When you interview, you'll actually be placed with a specific project, but the project scope will in many ways be determined by the gap assessment work that you do. So that'll be a conversation with your site supervisor and with your regional coordinator around scope, but you'll be placed with a specific project in a specific agency. Does the 40 hours per week translate Monday to Friday, or does it vary depending on project needs? For the most part, it's Monday through Friday. Sometimes you'll have an event on a Saturday or a Sunday that you'll go to, some service days or over the weekends. Some of your volunteer engagement activities will be in evenings or weekends. But in general, the 40-hour week translates to Monday through Friday. We have a question came through. Do you have any projects with SCAG, the Southern California Association of Governments? They are one of our regional partners, actually. So we have three fellows placed with them this year. We had another group of fellows placed with them last year, and we're going to have fellows with them this coming year as well. Are there word limits for essays in the application? Nope. Nope. We have no word limits. Definitely write as much as you would like to convey your fit for the program. We definitely like to have some detail, so that's great. Another clarification question on the schedule, is it 9 to 5? I think that's typically standard 9 to 5, but it's flexible. It's something that you'll have to have a conversation with your site supervisor about, but it's, again, these other external events aside, it's about a typical work week. Is there a set amount of paid or unpaid time built into the fellow's hours, like for doctor's appointments, sick days, etc.? You have 40 hours of time built into your year for personal, excuse me, personal days off, vacation, etc., and you also get off 13 holidays in addition to those 40 hours. All right. Where do fellows stay? Is the housing chosen by CivicSpark, or do fellows look for housing independently? So we do not provide housing, but we will connect you as soon as you're placed in a region with other fellows in that region so that you can look for housing together. But we do not provide housing. We'll do our best to facilitate the housing process, but we unfortunately do not provide housing. What professionals are involved during the program? Are there any licensed engineers involved? Totally depends. We have a lot of our speakers that do our trainings are licensed professionals one way or the other. There's no, it depends on the project as well. If you're interested in a very technical project and maybe working with a licensed engineer, that's definitely something that I would suggest you write in your application, because some of our project placements do require a much more technical background. So if you're looking for something specifically, definitely let us know. We have so many project partners and program partners that we can probably connect you to the professionals and resources that you are looking for. Can you expand on the forbearance of loans? I don't know if did you? I'll let Ariadna talk about that.
So when I did my fellowship last year, I had my forbearance of loans on one of my loans. The way it works is you have to go through some paperwork when you first become a fellow and fill out some forms that you will send to, depending on the loan. Not all loans are considered for forbearance. One of my loans wasn't, but my other one was. And so the way it works is that during the time that you're in the program, you don't have to pay the interest on your loan, but it will accumulate, and at the end, that the accumulated interest will be paid by AmeriCorps. However, that whatever amount they pay, that will be considered an income for you, so it is taxable. So that's something to consider if you're going to have a really high interest and a lot of a big chunk of it is going to be taxed. So if you don't have a big loan and too much of an interest and you're not too worried, then you can. It really depends. But for me, it worked great. I didn't have too much of an interest accumulated, so it wasn't considered too big of a tax that I had to pay. It definitely helps if you have big loans. That really does help us. You know, the stipend is kind of limiting for loans, but it just depends case by case. But I thought for me it was a really good benefit.
And we will help you, and your regional coordinator will help you go through this process. We have a bunch of former fellows such as Ariadna who can help you as well. So it sounds like a lot, and it sounds very complicated, but if you are selected to be a fellow, part of orientation will be going through the process of putting loans in forbearance and signing up for interest repayment and things like that. So there'll be a lot more support and guidance and resources provided. Is it encouraged to have technical skills such as GIS or programming? If you have them, we would love for you to list them on your resume. That's really, really great for us to know if that's something that is really required or used in some project placements, definitely not others, but knowing as much as we can about your background and your specific skills will really help us find the perfect fit for you in terms of a project. If we have written or conducted research for climate action plan strategies and other project that documents our skills, should we attach them to our application? There's no way to attach your other documents other than a resume to the application. But if you do have that, again, please list that in the essays. There might be a possibility for us to follow up and ask for work products or things like that. Some of our project partners do request those samples as part of the application process. So definitely call that out on your resume, call that out in your essays, and there might be an opportunity for you to share that in a more concrete way later on in the application process. Where is orientation held? So we haven't picked a final location yet, but it'll typically be in the center of the state. Last year it was held very close to Santa Cruz, and it's probably going to be in a similar place this coming year as well. And we will provide travel reimbursements to and from your host regions if you carpool with other folks in your region. So it'll be centered in the state. Some people will have to travel far, but we will be providing reimbursements to anyone that we can. Another question that came through was, I live in Valley Springs. Would it be possible to commute to one of the locations? So right now, the closest location that we have fellows is in Stockton, which is still a little bit of a drive. Not 100% positive if we're going to have fellows there this coming year as well. But if we have more, if you have more questions about that or would like to follow up more directly, we can talk more about the projects. And again, I encourage you to look on the website as the projects roll in. It's possible that we'll have more projects that are a little bit closer by for you. How many projects are a continuation of past CivicSpark projects? I would say this coming year, it's going to be about half of our projects are going to be continuation from last year. And in those cases, we'll have some resources to share. You're going to have other folks who have worked on very similar things. So again, about 1/2 of projects are continuation from past projects. Another question that came through, will our training include CEQA and NEPA? We touch on that during orientation. We do some high-level, really overviews of what climate change is more broadly and some of the major pieces of legislation that kind of drive different climate actions. But if you're really interested in learning about a particular policy or a particular subject area, I encourage you to, when we're going through the professional assessment process at the beginning of the year, communicate that. The regional coordinators have flexibility to really target trainings. On the statewide level, we really target training. So a lot of what we do is very California focused. We definitely talked about CEQA during one of our initial trainings. We did a session with somebody from the Governor's Office of Planning and Research who works on CEQA, and he came and talked about that. But again, if part of this program is developing your professional network, and developing your professional skills, so there are definitely opportunities for you to learn about the things that you want to get out of the program year. So that was the last question that we had received. If there are any other last-minute questions, please type them into the question bar. But if not, my contact information is up on the screen, and I encourage you to write that down and reach out if any other questions or concerns, thoughts come up. Thank you all so very much for being so engaged and asking so many great questions during the session. And please continue to check Facebook and check the website. Our projects will probably be up online within the coming weeks. I don't have a definitive date on that, but we'll be having many more updates soon. So thank you all so much, and I really, really look forward to reading all of your applications. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.